Welcome back. This is the third installment in a series of talks with my former teacher, James Piorkowski, on his Tools for Productive Practicing, a collection of strategies and techniques you can apply in your practice and study of your instrument to ensure that you are solving problems and achieving your goals. You can download a PDF of the full list of tools on Jim's website, link in the description. Let's continue. The next one on the list, which is a little bit vague, is discover the composer's intent.
What's so vague about that? Yeah, so as someone who became a composer eventually, as you are,
I'd like to think so.
Well, you are. I know your work. For a long time, I considered myself a musician who composed, and it took a while to get to that threshold where I could
before you gave yourself that title.
Yeah.
Sure.
But I think it was just actually not even giving it. I recognized that there was a transition, in my work.
Yeah.
But anyways, for example, examining meter. When you're composing or when I'm composing, meter is really important. What meter do we put this in? Mm-hmm. Where's the main pulse? Where's the weaker pulse? And then how do we put gestures within each one of those beats or over the beats? And where does the gesture aim for? Where's the arrival of that? And where's the departure? Or is it both on the same note, as we call a cadential elision? Mm-hmm. Is it some like that dovetailing of that note from the end of one phrase to the next?
Right.
And those things are really important. And if we don't look for those and ask questions, for example, in guitar music, unlike piano music, we only have one staff. We could have two or three voices on that one staff. So we have stems going up to indicate the soprano line, stems going down on the notes to indicate bass line or inner voices. And so it's like, just look at that stemming. What's the composer's intent of putting the stems in one direction or another? Mm-hmm. I was teaching a piece recently, and I pointed out to a student that there's a dotted eighth note with a 16th rest in that one beat, but you're not honoring the rest. Now, the composer would have been much easier if he just wrote one note and not a note and a rest, right? There had to have been some motivation that the composer wanted that little breath of break in the sound. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes we don't look carefully at what a composer did. If we talk about composers with all sorts of notation and instructions on the score, I have to think about Roland Diens. Mm-hmm. Because when you look at his score, he's orchestrating the guitar. He's talking about color and texture and
he was
everything.
Famous for over detailing his scores.
Yeah,
maybe not over detailing, but
no, I would say detailing to his concept. Like he wasn't writing the notes; he was writing the whole orchestral score. Mm-hmm. And so, Roland and I were dear friends, and he would. I don't know how many times he stayed at my house when he was on tour in North America, but often when he was here, he was composing, and I would watch him be very, very thoughtful about all the little markings, staccato, tenuto, rests, color, accents, and just painstakingly so. And then he would, should I do that, or not? And, so again, after I became the composer and I realized how much work all of that stuff requires, we need to give the composers notation a lot of thought. Not only how long is the note, or how short is the note, or how strong is the note, but as I was saying about phrasing, why did they choose that meter? Why did they choose the note to start on an offbeat maybe, or a pickup? And is there a pickup motif then throughout the rest of the piece? Is he keeping that going? Is he or she keeping that motif going in the writing? Is there a pattern here? Am I recognizing it? And if I'm recognizing it, am I expressing it to the audience? Because that's our job. If we're playing somebody else's music, if we're playing Bach and we have that killer bass line in the Bourrée, the audience needs to hear that line. It's gotta make sense to them. So practicing it alone is really important. Because we got to know it, and if we don't know it, we're not going to express it. So, looking at all the stuff that the composer gives us and trying to figure it out simply by asking questions like why.
Yeah.
Why are there two voices? Why is that rest there? Why is the meter this or that? And those are questions we don't ask enough of. Mm-hmm. And it's a fun way to contemplate the answer. Right now, with Bach, we can't talk to the man.
Right.
With Roland, I actually had opportunities to ask him. It was unbelievable.
Yeah.
To say, this one piece that my student's playing or that I'm looking at, could there be a different fingering here? And he would sometimes say, I've changed my fingering now, and I'm doing that one. It's funny. Yeah. Or what do you mean by this? And sometimes it would be a mistake in the score. And he said, I never saw that mistake before. So looking really carefully and paying attention and asking questions, I think sums up that tool.
Yeah. Just not taking the notes at face value, I guess, and really kind of trying to read between the lines in a way,
Yeah. Or what's the bigger picture of it? What's the...
Yeah, right. I mean, what makes this thing tick? What makes this, what's the cohesive component of this, it informs your interpretation of the music, it probably informs a lot of the technical choices that you're making in regards to fingering and that sort of thing,
Mm-hmm. Stroke, free stroke.
Right. If you're going to do maybe a campanella effect or not, if you're going to allow certain notes in a passage to all ring over each other or keep it more dry,
Yeah.
One thing that I do, I don't know if this is actually correct.
Legal?
I think it is. But if I look at the music from like Soar or Carcassi or Giuliani, any of these early romantic guitar guys, right? I've always viewed it this way, the way that they separate their voices on the page, with stems up, stems down.
Yeah.
So much of the time with the stems going down, I almost go out of my way to play all those notes with my thumb. And Carcassi 1, the one with all the scales in it. So, actually, this is a great example with the rests too.
Right.
I'm gonna pull it up because this is a good example.
Right. Why did he write the rest and not a long note?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Because it's so easy to just go. But that's not it. That's not
right.
what he wants. And I got to find it.
So what does he want? There's the question.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, if we look at just this first measure, we have this, and then we have this underneath, right?
That's right. Three symbols instead of a whole note.
Right. This,
That's right.
This C in the bass could easily just be, just let it ring.
That's right.
But he didn't put these here by accident,
Right.
So,
and what I think, Alex, talking about this composer's intent, is that we do have this overlap. He didn't even write it as an eighth note, but we have.
Right, exactly. So it's supposed to ring through that.
That's right.
And then we cut it off right there on the B in the,
right.
in the descending scale there.
And one could say that it could be inferred that after the second note, there's a little bit of delay. just, like at the top of a roller coaster, right? So that there's that moment of just holding on and then releasing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the silence underscores the releasing.
That's good. I've never thought of it that way with this one. I usually just kind of bomb right through it, but I usually put a little bit of length on the bass note before going up, right?
Yeah.
So
right. But you're also lengthening the first soprano note.
Yeah, I guess I am.
Yeah.
A little bit of rubato, right? Yeah. Okay, and this is kind of what I was getting to. Like in measure 11, this whole big like low bass line right here with the stems pointed down. I played that whole thing with my thumb. Right?
Sure.
You know?
Yeah.
You know? I mean,
yeah. And also back in measure 11, the soprano note is a what?
It's an eighth note, right?
Yeah.
He wants it like short, yeah. That's it. I've never quite found like the right way to articulate that. It should be said that I don't actually practice this piece ever. I just teach it a lot. Maybe? I don't know.
I think it's time. There should be a separation of time from the B to the low E, and that you finish a phrase and that you start a phrase, just like you would take a breath as a singer or a brass player or something.
Kind of like that, right? And then
yeah.
Maybe something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Because what we're doing when we take time is telling the listener, pay attention because something's going to happen. And what's going to happen there is we're ending a phrase and we're beginning a new one. Mm-hmm. So and that's how we communicate. We communicate in chunks. We deliver in our phrasing. If you hear our speech, we do pauses, right? After the word speech, I waited. After the word pauses, I waited. Mm-hmm. That's how we communicate. That's how we perceive and bring information into our own heads. When you tell someone your 10-digit phone number, you do it in 3 chunks.
Right.
3 digits, 4 digits. What Carcassian there is telling us, here's a chunk. Here's a motif. Here's the arrival of it. Here's the departure of it. Sometimes they overlap, like the first 2 notes. Mm-hmm. Sometimes that measure 11, they're separated, right? So that's texture. Right. Why did he do that? Yeah, that's a great question. And, 5 different musicians might get 5 different answers on that, but at least they've asked the question and they gave Carcassi some respect in what he did.
Right.
And that's important.
Yeah, it is. It's an interesting thing, balancing your own interpretation while also respecting the composer's apparent wishes. Mm-hmm. Because even if we conclude what Carcassi was after, not that we ever could, totally definitively, no 2 people are going to play it the same way,
Yeah. And they shouldn't.
Right. Because that's boring.
Yeah.
And what's the 11th commandment?
Thou shalt not be boring.
Right. All right. Thanks for watching. Again, you can get a PDF of Jim's tools on his website, linked down below. As usual, if you have any thoughts, questions, or experiences you'd like to share related to anything we talked about, please feel free to leave a comment. In the next segment, we'll be talking about STP, or stretched time practice, and P&P, or play and prepare. Thanks again. We'll see you in the next one.